In today's show, revisiting 5 bold predictions from the preseason to see what I got right and a whole bunch of stuff I got wrong. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make your first listen and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we are revisiting 5 bold predictions that I made all the way back in preseason. I typically, right before the first game of the year, I give you 5 bold predictions and a lineup that I am intrigued by, and then we kind of check back in to see how right I was, or in many cases, how wrong I was. And for those of you who are waiting for me to be wrong, boy, is this the episode for you, because of these 5 bold predictions, I mostly whiffed. Some I whiffed in a good way, some I whiffed in a bad way, but these are mostly whiffs. But I think they give you a sense of kind of where the Blazers are, and I think it's a good check-in as we head into All-Star Weekend, the unofficial halfway point. It's sort of I think it's like the midway point, assuming you stopped 2/3 of the way into the journey. And it's a good check-in and kind of like taking temperature of where the Blazers are, what surprised us, what didn't surprise us, all of those types of things. Without further ado, let's get into it. We'll get into my 5 bold predictions, and then we'll revisit a disappearing lineup trick that is maybe not as disappearing, but still quite a trick. So my first prediction was that the Blazers would have a top 14 defense at the All-Star break. They had finished in the bottom third of the league for 5 straight seasons. The best they'd finished over the last 5 years was 23rd. But I thought with the additions of, youngster Donovan Clingan, who looked pretty good in preseason, theoretically more involved Robert Williams, the growth of Toumani Camara, the addition of Deni Avdija, more and bigger wings, that my bold prediction was this was going to be the year that the Blazers finished in the top 14 in defense before the All-Star break, that they were an above average defense. My vision for this was something like last year's Memphis Grizzlies, which were like a pretty good defensive team and horrendous on offense. That's kind of how I thought the Blazers would be this year. That was like, these are bold on purpose. Let me be 100% clear. Like, these are intentionally not like things that will easily happen. I'm trying to. Bold is like has a real meaning. I'm not saying that to offer myself cover. I was dead ass wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, I could have been, I guess. The Blazers at the All-Star break were 24th in defense, but I do think some of my logic here has showed up over the last 14 games heading into the All-Star break. The Blazers since January 19th, and these numbers just for normalization's sake are all from NBA.com. That's where I pulled it in the show back in September when I did this, October, when I did this. So I'm pulling those numbers again from NBA.com, even though typically I do pull them from Cleaning the Glass, and maybe I'll have to do that next year just to make sure things are normal, but I want to make sure we're measuring apples and apples here. 24th on defense on the year. I was way off. They're a bad defense. They've been a bad defense all season long, except since January 19th, they've turned a corner. They've been much better defensively. They've committed to playing a larger starting lineup. They've gotten a much better defensive effort out of DeAndre Ayton, and since January 19th, they're 7th in the NBA. In defensive rating. That's points allowed per 100 possessions. I'm not taking a victory lap here, right? I was wrong, but I think the vision that I had has been a little more similar to what they've been like recently, but not completely recently, because the last 2 games, they've got absolutely shredded by an elite offensive team and the Denver Nuggets. So I would say in general, this is one that I was just straight up wrong on, but if if we had done this check-in in the early January, I would have looked like a big dumb dummy. Instead, I looked like a medium-sized dummy on this one. Medium-sized dummy. To be clear, wrong. Bold prediction number 1, wrong. Bold prediction number 2. Donovan Clingan will make an all-rookie team and get Rookie of the Year votes. And folks, this one felt wrong until yesterday. I felt like I was going to be dead wrong on this until literally yesterday. If I'd recorded this at any point prior to February 12th, actually you're listening to Friday's show, prior to Wednesday. I apologize. I'm recording this on Thursday evening. I was going to be dead wrong. I was uncomfortable with this prediction up until February 12th, 2025, and I made this prediction in October of 2024. Here's why. Clingan just hasn't played enough to get the type of votes that the rookie awards are so often just like a minutes played award. Who plays the most minutes? Does that person who plays the most minutes, are they healthy for the season? Do they get the requisite counting stats by playing the most minutes to receive votes, right? Like people sort by rookie points per game, and then they make some votes. Shout out to my main man, Tyler Zeller, second team all rookie with the Cavs back in 2012, 2013. Like, it is not a judge of like who's going to have a good season, but the Blazers, Shane Sharp didn't make it, Scoot Henderson didn't make it. And I felt like, oh shoot, this is the year. Clingan I felt comfortable with, and I felt like he was going to play a little bit more than he has. He's playing just 16 minutes a game. By virtue of playing 31 minutes against the Nuggets to close out the All-Star break. He jumped from playing under 60 minutes a game, 15.9, to over 60 minutes a game, 16.3. Not meaningful, but like literally a half a minute jump in his averages. Like that seems it's not meaningful in the difference between 15.9 and 16.3. Like when you're doing the ultimate zoom out, but like when you zoom in, that's like one game kind of jumped up the per game minutes, not a insignificant amount to me, someone looking at a very granular level. But, they've played 55 games. He's missed 14 of them. He's playing under 20 minutes a night. He's missed 14 games. The Rising Stars game, they elected 10 rookies. He wasn't among the names. And then when Jared McCain couldn't participate, he wasn't among the names that would have been the guys who got added in, right? And it was Ryan Dunn who made it. So it was like among the 11 rookies that were added to the Rising Stars game, Donovan Clingan not among them. Not even like in the he got snubbed type of conversation. In fact, even if you were looking for another rookie big man at the time of the naming of those teams that would have made it, it would have been Kel'el Ware in Miami. It would not have been Clingan. Let's be 100% clear. And then Wednesday came, and he had 17 and 20 with 3 blocks and 2 assists. And he might be staring at a big minute role for the remainder of the season. And I'm feeling a lot more comfortable about this prediction than I was at any point prior to Wednesday, just because of the nature of the beast. The Blazers have, he's played a limited role. When they were rolling and playing their best basketball of the season, his minutes were one of the guys who getting like absolutely pinched. He was not getting more minutes as they were getting better. He was getting less. But now with DeAndre Ayton's health in question and Rob Williams' health in perpetuity in question, I think Clingan is destined for 25 plus minutes a night as long as he can hold up physically. And I think he looked freaking fine in his 31 minutes. People need to stop handling him with kid gloves. I'm not speaking to the Blazers medical staff. I'm thinking of the like pearl clutching from Blazer fans who know nothing about him physically. He might look tired, but he played 31 minutes. He's an NBA player. Let him go. I think he's comfortable. I think I'm much more comfortable with this. I'm much more comfortable. I don't know about him. I'm much more comfortable about him making an all rookie team than I was before. I am. Obviously, like Rising Stars is not all rookie. Jared McCain's probably not going to make an all rookie team because like he just hasn't played enough. But this has not been a super like impressive rookie class. And I think if Clingan has a really good final 20, they play 27 games after the break. If he has a good final 25, as votes kind of get cast in the final week of the season, he's much more on track. This one I might get right. But again, I was dead wrong on this until literally Wednesday. So I don't know. This one is like not a whiff. But the logic that I used to parse this out was incorrect because I thought Klingon was going to play 18 to 20 minutes a night and they were going to find more space for him, and particularly in the second half of the season, and maybe they make some roster changes that allowed him to have more room, and he was going to and no, when they got rolling, he played less, not more. So I think I was wrong about this, but I might end up being right. Okay, more bold predictions in the second segment, more preseason predictions. We'll see what I got right and actually also what I got wrong. Join me in that second segment, won't ya? First, though, let's talk DoorDash. Listen, if you're an NBA fan, think about it. They swish, you save. That's what DoorDash wants you to know, because thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. This is a super simple and pretty fun deal from our friends at DoorDash. When any player in the NBA scores 50 or more points in a game during the 2024-2025 season, and at this point, 2024 is behind us, so for the remainder of the 2025 regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. It's noon to midnight on the East Coast. For my West Coast listeners, it's actually 9 a.m. Pacific time to 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. We get all day, and those folks on the East Coast have to suffer noon to midnight. You can even order breakfast on Dash Pass, assuming that your breakfast is going to be ordered after 9 a.m. and you live on the West Coast, noon to midnight if you live on the other side of the country. You can cash it in for whatever. It doesn't have to be breakfast. It can be late night cravings. It could be lunch on the go when you're at work. It can be, fueling your watch party with your buddies when you're watching an NBA game. And the crew's over at your house and someone scores 50 points the night before, you can say, everyone come over. Thursday night was a huge night. Jamal Murray scored 55 against the Blazers. I guess that was Wednesday night. Come on over on Thursday and you can go ahead and use this deal. But you have to be a Dash Pass member to go ahead and be ready to save. So sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save that money. When any player scores 50 or more points in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight, or 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. on the West Coast after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, let's keep it rolling. I got more predictions. They are bold. I did them back in October. Let's revisit the next ones. This one is tough because I think I'm wrong about it, but maybe not. This next prediction is that the Blazers, or this next prediction was, because this is in the past. I don't even think I still hold this opinion. The next prediction was, the Blazers will win twice as many games in the first month of the season as they will after the All-Star break. And the number I threw out there, I said, okay, we'll go count it through games played on November 25th. And the number I threw out there is like, what if the Blazers go something like 8-10? I said, 8-10 might be a little rich. What if they go 7-11? That's the number I kind of threw out there. They're going to go 7-11. Guess what? First 18 games, I went 7-11. I was right about that. Then it gets now it feels like I'm a little bit wrong. So over the final 27 games of the season, the Blazers would have to go 3-24. But at the time, my reasoning is that the shenanigans would come in hot. We'd get hot with the shenanigans, right? Is that the Blazers would, be in position to chase a certain Mainer who attends college in Durham, North Carolina, and they would pull the plug, fake injuries, do what they've done each of the last 3 seasons, and really lose out. And they'd go something like, 1-25 over their final 26 games. But now, to get this prediction right, the Blazers would have to go 3-24. I do think there is a world in which the Blazers are, let's call it, giving more opportunity to youngsters. Actually, I don't need to protect them. Faking injuries, lying, and tanking on purpose. And the reason why I think they might do that is because they've done it in the past. But there's less incentive now because they have because they have 23 wins, because they are so far away from the true bottom of the bottom, that there is less incentive to chase it. The flattened lottery odds certainly make it such that, You're not going to get super punished, although losing more games in a lottery-based system does help you. I think there was a time when the Blazers were when they'd won 10 of 11, that it was like, hey, maybe they'll chase the play-in. But, they lose 3 in a row on the road against like good Western Conference teams. If they can, if that trend continues, which is very reasonable that it might, right? Because it felt like they were playing a little bit over their heads. Then they come back down to earth. And when they come back down to earth, you look up and you're like, there's still a lot of teams in our way to even get 10th in the play-in. Is that worth it? It's just the getting all the way to the bottom has probably knocked out some of the incentive of truly tanking, because even if you do go 3-24 over the final 27 games, and you do only win 26 games this season, 26 is still not going to be near the bottom. Like, you're not going to catch those teams at the bottom. Utah's terrible. New Orleans is bad in a way that you couldn't have predicted. Typically, when teams have a season like the Pelicans do, they're like, oh, their season was a mess. They only won 29 games, right? Like they went 30-52. They're going to win like 19 or something absurd like that. Like they're bad. They're like truly, truly bad in a way that even teams that get decimated by injuries don't typically go out sad like them. The Sixers, are they going to pull the plug? They can't win at all, so help them. Hard to know what Toronto might do. Brooklyn is kind of in the middle of this, like, sometimes they win games because their defense has been good lately, but like what is their incentive right now? So I don't think the Blazers can get to the bottom of the bottom. I think like 6 or 7 is probably the lowest they could get realistically. So there might be less incentive to truly tank for the final 27 games, but I do think it's on the table. I'm going to end up being wrong about this. They're going to win more than 3 games the second half of the season, final third of the season. Absolutely. They're going to win more than 3 games. I feel like I will be wrong about it, but I think more importantly, I was wrong about what led up to it. They just, like, their incentives have changed. The math has changed. I thought they were going to be very, very comfortably one of the 5 worst teams in the league, and then they were going to lean into the skid. The skid hasn't been here. They've closed out heading into the break. Obviously, they lost 3 in a row by double digits to get here, but like heading into the break, playing their best basketball of the season and kind of figuring out what makes them competitive. And I did not anticipate this. I underestimated how effective they could be at full strength. I was dead wrong about that. Speaking of dead wrong, because boy, did I get these bold predictions wrong. My next one was that DeAndre Ayton would shoot more threes in this season than he had in his prior 6 seasons combined. That was 358 games. He had taken 93s in 58 games. And my prediction was that DeAndre Ayton would take a little more than 1 a game and easily, hit 91. In fact, I re-listened to that episode today in preparation to record this one. The number I said was 105. What was I on in October? I really thought DeAndre Ayton was going to take 1.5 a game or something like that, 1 1/3 a game. Like he's on pace. He's taking about 0.8 a game. He's on pace to take, if he were to play all 82, which obviously he's not because he's going to miss a month. He's on pace to shoot 65, 66, 65 and a half. Like, let's call it 66. Let's round up for Michael from the past. Dog, what? You thought he was going to take 105, you doofus? There was a lot of talk early in the season about DeAndre Ayton stretching his range and all of that stuff. And one thing I have to learn, and this is the good thing about doing this and thinking about this, is like, don't believe the preseason nonsense. Ignore that stuff. Ignore it. It's always a lie. Trust what you know. And it's that DeAndre Ayton has shot 93s in 6 seasons. Even if he shoots a few more, even if he doubles his 3-point attempt rate, he'd be taking half of 1 a game. He damn near tripled it. He's taking 0.8 threes a game. He's not even taking 1 a night. Like, I just drank the Kool-Aid on the sort of preseason DA's going to shoot threes hype, and I was dead stinking wrong about it. Now, he doesn't look good shooting threes. Like, I wish he was more comfortable taking corner 3-pointers. Like, that's a conversation for another day. But this prediction relied on listening to DA and Chauncey Billups and quite frankly the media members a little bit closer to the team than I am, and buying into that nonsense. I couldn't have been more wrong about this, and I will learn my lesson. I'll learn my lesson. You know what you know. Like dudes who have played 5, 6, 7 years in the league, they are so much closer to what they're going to be. The idea that they're going to massively evolve is just so uncommon, and yeah, I should have known better. I should have known better on this. I think it would be cool if DA shot threes, but that is just, it's not going to happen. And folks, I'm okay with it. Okay, I got a couple more bold predictions, or one more bold prediction and a disappearing lineup trick that I'll share with you in the third segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, let's talk FanDuel, America's #1 sports book that wants you to know when the NBA action tips off, the game is just getting started. Actually, when the game tips off, rather, the action is just getting started, because this is an ad about wagering on sports from FanDuel, and the action is what they want you to know about. The game is actually being played on the court. FanDuel, it's the place where you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss opening tip, when you sit down on your couch, you can pull up the app on your phone and you can make bets from the moment that you turn that bad boy on until the final buzzer sounds. You can stay in on the action if that's what you're into. FanDuel makes it easy for you to be an up-to-the-second live bettor. They got live stats, they got live scores, so you can be an informed, in-the-moment wagerer, and you can even combine some of your live bets into a same-game parlay if you're feeling extra spicy. So when you're watching games, if FanDuel's a thing you're into or feel like you might be, check it out, because once you figure out how to navigate their super easy to use app and you win some bets, you can get paid super quickly, instantly, in some cases just 15 minutes for that money to hit your account. Right now, FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Here's my final bold prediction. And hold on, let me read it to you, and then I got a confession. One and only one of the opening night starters will be traded. I have been misquoting myself with this. I have been straight up misquoting myself with this. I have been saying that my bold prediction from the preseason was that none of the opening night starters would get traded. Or one at the most. But the actual prediction, again, I went back and listened to the tape. Search bold predictions in your app if your app allows you to search. I don't know what you use, but my app allows me to search, baby. I said one and only one opening night starter would get traded. But I was saying one starter would for sure get traded, and I believe when I've quoted in the past, I said that no one from the opening night starting lineup would get traded, and I was straight up wrong. I've been lying to y'all. That's why you can't trust me. No, I'm just kidding. Please trust me. I put a lot of work into this, and I'm so okay with being wrong about stuff that I'm doing 30 minutes on all the stuff I got wrong for you on a Friday. Like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I am imperfect, but I try to be thoughtful in my imperfections. I try to walk you through the logic, all these things. But this one, I just straight up misquoted myself. That's kind of embarrassing. Ooh. In any case, the opening night starters were Anthony Simons, Toumani Camara, Danny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton. All those dudes are still on the team because the Blazers didn't trade anyone. They didn't do anything at the All-Star break. I think at the trade deadline, excuse me. I think in general, it's not very surprising that they didn't do anything because of all of the inaction that they've had over the last 2 years, quite frankly. Since they traded Damian Lillard, the Blazers have completed exactly 2 trades. They traded for Delano Banton for a fake second-round pick, and they traded a couple picks, or a couple firsts and a couple seconds, and Malcolm Brogdon for Denny Avdia. A big splash trade, right? But they have not torn this thing down. They have not aggressively moved into what's next. They have largely kept the team intact. They brought 13 players back from the post-Dame era to this one. Like they made the Dame trade. They've held on to Rob Williams. They've held on, obviously, too money. They've held on to DeAndre Ayton. Like, they have not made moves. And they have not made moves in a way that's, I don't know, believable, but it is a little bit frustrating. I have been banging the drum for them to move on to what's next. But I think what happened was that when they chose not to do that at last year's trade deadline, the 2024 deadline, and especially in the summer of 2024, when they did not make large structural changes and they agreed to run it back, they just waited too long. And then they got to this new era of the sort of trade world. And Anthony Simons did not have a great season last season. He did not have a great first month of this season. It's not like his trade value had skyrocketed over the last 18 months. Jeremy Grant, to begin this year, has been straight up bad. He just has struggled so much on offense that even his good defense hasn't mattered, right? Like in terms of grand scheme of trade value, I think in any individual game, Jeremy Grant's defense has value. But I'm talking sort of big picture to the league. He's just struggled so much on offense, and he's paid at a level where it's I don't know if you should trade for a dude who shoots 40% on twos. He can't score from 3 feet to the 3-point line shot. He's not very good at the rim, but really from that floater range into the mid range, just horrendous, under 40% from 3 feet to the 3-point line. It's just he's really struggling. So he didn't have trade value. DeAndre makes too much money to really be traded. So if you are trying to get off of those guys, you're likely, maybe you have to attach picks like what happened with Memphis trading 2 picks for Marcus Smart and then another pick to get off Marcus Smart because they needed to create some space to give Jaren Jackson Jr. a big ass contract. And the Blazers obviously don't have that contract incentive, but so that maybe they don't have the willingness to part with assets. But quite frankly, that'd be a terrible deal. That's terrible business if the Blazers were to attach picks to get off some sort of unsavory deals. The problem isn't that that's good, right? In the grand scheme, consummating a terrible trade is bad, but the problem is not that they, you can say, okay, good, they didn't make bad trades. I think that's fine. That's a fine opinion to hold. The problem isn't that. It's that they walked themselves down a path where only bad trades are available in a way that seemed relatively predictable for closing in on a year. So I was wrong about this bold prediction. And yeah, I hijacked my own bold prediction to whine about the Blazers not making moves, but I still feel the same way I have felt, and I'm not going to lie about the way I felt. I think the inaction is very puzzling. Not because I think that people get confused about this. It's you make moves not because the players that you're trading are terrible, right? If you wait till then, you can't make the moves. You make moves because you've made commitments to other players, or you don't want to walk yourself down a path where it's yeah, well, I guess it makes the most sense to sign Anthony Simons, and then your team in perpetuity going forward for several years is some combination of Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and Scoot Henderson. Does that feel like a team that's going to be a high-level winner? Does that seem like a really similar version, like a redux of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, Part 2, the remix? Are you freaking kidding me? You just have to... At some point, you have to move to what's next, and the Blazers have an unwillingness to do this. And I knew back in October that they were unlikely to make wholesale changes because they hadn't made any changes yet. And here I am, dead wrong about this prediction because they didn't make any changes at all. This is my last time. I'm giving myself this the last time whining about this on purpose. If I have a guest on and they rev me up, I might do it. But I will not talk about this until we get to the offseason. You are free from this rant for a while. But the Blazers' inaction has put them in a spot that feels like, not that they're horrendous, just that they're stuck in a weird place, and a place they chose to be. They chose to walk down this path. And now they are maybe a little better than you thought they would be, but they're not among the good teams, and they're not among the bad teams, and being stuck of the good version of the bad teams is one of the worst places you could be. Okay, bold prediction number 5, I got it wrong. I was wrong about that, and I hijacked it to complain. It's my show. You can't stop me, but I will stop now. That's the last time I'm going to complain about. You won't hear me use that phrase, inaction. Well, you might, because I repeat myself a lot. But you won't hear me whine about it for a little while. Not until April, and then it's on, baby. Then I'm whining again. In any case, disappearing lineup trick. I always do this back in the preseason, and I got this kind of wrong, but I still believe. For the last 4 years, I had picked an intriguing lineup that I thought usually involving a newcomer on the roster, and here's a new combination that I thought would be intriguing. And I spent 4 years doing it, and over the course of 4 years, every lineup I picked just did not play together. The 4 years leading up to this one, those lineups played a total of 9 minutes across 4 seasons. Incredible. And my bold prediction was that this year's intriguing lineup would not only play more than those 9 minutes combined, they would play 9 minutes in a single game. We haven't gotten that, but my intriguing lineup, I'm calling it intriguing, not disappearing. Intriguing lineup was Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp, Tumani Kamara, Denny Avdia, and Donovan Clingan. Those gentlemen have played 17 minutes total across nine games. They have not hit I believe they haven't hit, by my numbers in my little tracking sheet, they haven't hit the 4-minute mark together in any game. 9 minutes for any one lineup is a fairly big number. That means it's a kind of a heavy minute lineup in the grand scheme of a game. It's not the biggest, but it's a relatively heavy minute lineup. But I think with DA out and maybe with a deeper commitment to youth, i.e. faking an injury for Anthony Simons, you could get the two young guards back in the lineup. Tumani and Denny are, they're youngish. They could play. Tumani is like the same age as Anthony Simons, basically. He's a little bit younger, but they're similar in age. Anthony Simons, still young, to be sure, in the grand scheme. But Scoot, Shea, Tumani, Denny, with Donovan Clingan, I do think this group could hit that number. I think it's relatively unlikely. I'm going to end up wrong about this one. So if you're scoring at home, I got every single one of these wrong, except for maybe the Blazers super tank and maybe Donovan Clingan makes all rookie. But that's right. 5 bold predictions and a lineup, which include a bold prediction, fairly likely to go 0 for 6. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I'm not afraid of it, but would I have liked to have done better than 0 for 6? I would have, y'all. I would have made me feel a little better to go 1 for 6. I would have felt great about 2 for 6. I would have been crowing up a storm with 3 out of 6. And Lord knows if I'd gotten more than half right, they wouldn't have been bold enough. Come back next week. Blazers on a break. I'm not. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. We'll be back next week with 5 more shows, even though the Blazers don't play till Thursday. But it's what we do, baby. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.